Good evening. We're going to get started. If you guys want to make your way to your seats and relax. I know, don't worry, the bar's not closing, guys. You guys take your time. I'm fine. I'm in no rush. You guys can just keep listening. You're good. I promise. Number one, it is a formal event, but we're going to relax. We're going to enjoy each other's company. We're going to have a little bit of fun tonight. Hey, who's having fun already, by the way? All right. You guys don't sound very excited. We're going to work on it throughout the night. I'm used to like I don't know, a little bit more wild event. But we're gonna try to keep it somewhat under control. But you know, I think Ryan was already out in the parking lot pregame before, so. All right, guys. My name is Carson Fortner, and it's an honor to be here with you for the first ever Dinner for 22. Everybody give yourselves a hand for being here. One of my good friends once told me that a man needs a mission to be a good man. I've had the honor of knowing some of the most elite soldiers in the world, training some of the most elite soldiers in the world, and I've been able to help rehab the third priority at the Pentagon. All of these men had one thing in common. They had one struggle. After they were out of the military, their struggle was, what's my next mission? And this is what Dinner for 22 and the Rooster Project, that's what we're here for tonight. What's the next mission? How can we keep these guys with missions and keep them moving forward in life? So I'd like to welcome you again to Dinner for 22. I hope you enjoy it. We're going to get started. If you would like to please stand for the honoring of the colors, followed by the national anthem. Amazing job. Everybody give these guys a hand. Great job right here. And where are you going? Don't run away. You told me you were nervous, but look at what you did. You are the man. Everybody give this gentleman a hand. Great job. All right? You guys don't know. Make sure you introduce yourself to this gentleman tonight. He is a fighter, a warrior, right? That's you? All right. If you please remain standing for the for the Pledge of Allegiance. I would like to welcome and introduce Pastor Ben Martin for our prayer this evening.
It's an honor to be here. I have the great privilege of serving as Ryan Davis and AJ Davis and Knox Davis's pastor. So thank you for the invitation. Would you pray with me? Gracious God, you show yourself to the world through great love and great sacrifice. And our highest calling is to live out that example in our own lives. Tonight we gather to remember those who have done that and to honor those who continue to model great love and sacrifice in their daily lives. humble, inspire each of us to live up to what has been given to make our lives what they are in our own acts of giving. Thank you tonight for the work of Special Kicks, for recognizing the potential in every person. Bless this evening, grace us with your presence as we meet you in each other. Nourish our souls and our bodies, that we might have strength to serve you and one another. Amen.
We're going to start this evening. I would like to introduce you to Master Sergeant Retired Joseph Bouchard. You may be seated. So tonight, a lot is going to go on. And it's important that you guys understand the importance of that table in the center of the room. That table tonight represents our fallen. A small table set for one, symbolizing the isolation of the absent service member. The head cover, tambourine, is sitting over there, placed upon the table, represents the armed service of our missing loved one. The white tablecloth symbolizes the pure intentions of our service members who responded to the calls of our country, far and wide. A single rose in the vase symbolizes the blood that service member shed and sacrificed to ensure the freedoms that we have here today. The red ribbon represents the love of country, unwavered, and inspired the service member to serve his country. A slice of lemon upon a bread plate that represents the bitter fate of the fallen. Salt sprinkled on the bread plate that symbolizes the tears shed by those friends and family. An inverted glass to represent the fact that the missing and fallen could not take part tonight. A Bible showing the spiritual strength and faith to sustain the lost. A lit candle symbolizes the light and the hope that lives in the hearts and illuminates that pathway. An empty chair to represent the absence of our fallen loved one. Please stand, grab your glass, prepare for a toast. Let us not forget our fallen comrades, but remember them always. For they have earned our respect, our admiration with their lives. We knew them, we will remember them, and they will never be forgotten. Please be seated. Tonight, I'd like to take a moment to recognize distinguished guests who have sacrificed so much and have experienced firsthand the greatest loss in this nation. A dear friend of mine, Sergeant First Class Lance Vogler, I grew up in the Rangers with him. His wife, Melissa Vogler, and his son, Colin, are here to honor and represent his legacy. Master Sergeant Daryl Smith, recently lost. His wife, Miss Jennifer Hagan, and son Jack consistently honor him in his life and his service. And Miss Miranda Briggs has continued to honor publicly and with a separate service of her own, Specialist Garrett Briggs, the service that he brought to our nation. Thank you all for what you've done. Thank you all for that light that you carried and the burden that you've shed. It can never be repaid. Thank you. is with great honor that I get to introduce tonight one of my best friends, Sergeant First Class Ryan Davis.
Get my mic. Whoa. Get your mic still on video. Is it really Mr. Robot Man? All right, let's do it, guys. Walk over here, buddy. Give me a second to get all situated, and I'll take us on a cruise here for a little bit. Well, welcome everybody to the first evening. Better now? Maybe? Less robot-y. I have a pretty robot vibe, I apologize. Alright, welcome to the first evening dedicated to the Rooster Project. Welcome to an evening to bring awareness to an ongoing unresolved issue. Tonight, let us find gratitude. Gratitude for those that we had our time with, and gratitude for those that are still serving. Gratitude for those that are still fighting, and let us be an avenue to anybody that needs help. This country inherits and carries remarkable burdens. As its citizens, we wear them long after the trauma of their scars have healed. Welcome to an evening full of great Americans, both civilian and military alike. We're going to be brought into an evening that's very personal for most of us in this room. Tonight's talk-through of the period of darkness between August 15th and 16th is one to be remembered. A tale of heroism, bravery, Ranger medics, Air Force personnel, 160th, the 75th Ranger Regiment. That night is the link to many people spread across this room. But before all that, we're going to celebrate one of the timeless military traditions. On this night, we're going to invite all of our civilians to appreciate the honorary grog. Okay, I know you guys are like, what's grog? It's super easy to catch on to, that's why I brought it for us tonight. Grog goes back many years. Its main purpose was to store rum for sailors. It was, so sailors could drink in the military, they were stored in many different ways. In the military, its custom is to bring acknowledgement to those that serve in many different leadership positions. Valiant soldiers are selected to perform such a duty of preparing the grog at any formal event. Tonight we have many people up here to bring a light to their leadership, both civilian and military. Our efforts and mindsets are combined now. Our battlefield is in front of us. And now each of us have the moment in front of these children that counsel every time we're there. Leadership defines this country. It's always been that way. It was that way in this country's birth. In the very face of death, leadership is there, and in the very times of peace, leadership is there. It seems each new day brings more adversity to proper leadership in our society. Today, you must be fluid. You must be able to change your focus from, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard, to you do what you gotta do on your time, cowboy. The most difficult thing to pass on between human and human is leadership. It speaks in a way without a single word being sounded. It moves gracefully and violently without a single motion. America is the greatest country on the planet, and the greatest time that humanity has ever lived. What I say to you tonight is that freedom has never been more powerful. When it comes to raising our children and the youth of our community, I ask you one question. It's been said in history that hard times create tough people. Tough people create good times. Good times create weak people, and weak people create bad times. Where do you think we are on that reference? Each individual mixed in the garage has been specially selected from their impact on the world, on the community, impact on the lives that are going to take care of it long after we're gone. Tonight, this ceremony will be one many things, but most of all, it will symbolize a bond between military leadership and civilian leadership. In a bond in their direction, we shall share the temper of the Spirit. Each grog member was selected based on a positive impact that they had on the very community. What each spirit symbolizes is an act of leadership, an act of heroism, and an act of charity. Carson Fortner, would you please come forward and select the bottle of Woodford Reserve? Carson and Woodford both date back many years ago. Also, a lot like Carson, it symbolizes power. Power to make good in the bad, and the power to make bad for the good. The power in each drink sends an alarming American chill down your stomach. Carson showed me many ways to carry myself in the civilian world. He is the closest professional counterpart I've had. But more importantly, he's my friend. He showed me the way to open a business. He showed me the way to manage it like an upright, godly American. Yes, seeing Carson handle his everyday life has been an inspiration to have at my side. You got me, dude? Apologize, guys. You got it. I'm just over here talking about you. How am I going to scroll on the computer and hold the microphone, bro? I got you. All right, stick it in that pocket right there. I'm talking about you anyway, so it only makes sense you're helping here. Okay. Carson is his establishment of getting children with special needs a place to grow, a place to become in, a place to go to the next. It's empowered families with accessible issues, empowers recreational therapies and physical therapies. It is the great hand we need in this community, and it is irreplaceable. Carson's fortitude to do the right thing has always superseded any selfish desire. Carson's character is firm, effective, and upright American. Your leadership in the community is represented by this bottle of pour, to this drink, on this crowd, on this American evening. Carson, you may now pour your bottle into the grog bowl. Millie Orm, could you please grab a bottle of Sailor Jerry? Millie would be pouring a bottle of Sailor Jerry spice rum into the grog next. Millie's impact on this community, her direction with Special Kicks program, and her constant care of all her kiddos is unparalleled. They say a mother's love is the closest to God's love. Millie has shown that in a great way, like the Mother Teresa of Pooler, Georgia. She has some great leadership and some effort to properly manage and fund such a miracle of an organization is magical. Millie pouring the bottle of Sailor Jerry will be symbolic both to the ocean, Mr. Newman, and Millie herself. They have been bound by no force. They are unprecedented. Get it done attitudes, take no bull. Millie, would you please pour the bottle of Sailor Jerry? Danny Archer, would you please grab the bottle of Jim Beam? Danny Archer's sacrifices to his country are marked by very few. His entire time was in special operations, moving from decorated unit to decorated unit. Danny has 33 deployments. Not bad for a 20-year war. He has over 5 years of combat time. His effort has always been on the forefront of each associated direction that he was moving. That dedication and sacrifice, his recovery is just relentless. He's a relentless guy. He's aided many soldiers in the forefront of post-traumatic stress. He's helped me multiple times during multiple parts. So you're not calling somebody on a, once a whim Saturday, you're calling somebody multiple times through the stage of this. The stage is layered, each and every one of them. You gotta have the right guy you can call on at those times. Danny's always been that guy. Danny didn't just save 47 soldiers the night that I got hurt. He flew directly into harm's way because he's too damn stubborn to let me bleed out over there. His commitment to family discipline, to himself, is something we could all look up to. The first time I reached out to Danny, I said, I think my head might be rattled. And he said, you'd be kind of crazy if you thought it wouldn't. To have a voice that has done so much, that reeks of experience and treachery. It hurts, but leaves a regal feeling around his presence. What Danny did that night lives on forever in history. I don't suppose all the heroics that happened that night on the ground in the desert would be a very different story if it wasn't for men like Danny. He's a lightning rod in the world of recovery, and I'm proud to call him my friend. Danny, would you please just pour this bottle of Jim Beam as a token of your gratitude? Jimmy Arnell, please grab the bottle of O'Doul's and the primer from the howitzer. The primer that Jimmy is notionally putting into our grog tonight is a reminder of overhead protection, to look to those who come before us through a great transition of something wild and going to be a civilian. His outgoing effort in the mental health community. Seek help if you need it. His guidance has been irreplaceable. Jimmy has 6 deployments spread across the global war on terror. Different countries, different jobs, But I don't tell people this very often, but when I knew Jimmy, he had a beard. And he wore Muslim clothes all the time, so you never knew he was like an American. So I'm pretty sure like you wouldn't let him in the chow hall and stuff back in the day. He was this girl stuff. Anyway, he was super confident back then. He still is. Anyway, overhead support. It has one many forms in the mission. It provides death to our enemies. It gives you the freedom to run around wherever you want to. Jimmy acts on the community have been very much like overhead support on the battlefield. Constantly warning all of us, and still moving through the objective of what turns are where and what ready to be for and what not to do. And he shoots what he can along that path. He's been a help to numerous amounts of soldiers. He has been helping my friends go from dark places to find a bridge to light. His impact on the water with soldiers is undying. He didn't just get out. He didn't just become a pro fisherman. He opened a non-profit, and he called it Not Lucky. And he takes service members on the water. He helps them clear their stress, de-escalate whatever is bothering them. It's very difficult to find out the right way when you're doing 150 with your foot on the throttle. Sometimes all it takes is a dolphin at the Gulf Stream, perhaps a sheep's head in the fall. Maybe putting a satellite tag on a great white shark. All of these feats Jimmy has accomplished. He will be pouring the munition and a bottle of O'Doul's as a marker of his sobriety and his effort and leadership every day. Jimmy, would you please pray? Joseph Burchard.
I think you just drank my water, bro.
That Jim one almost got me, but I bounced back. Joseph Burchard, would you please grab the bottle of Jameson? Joe will be pouring the Jameson for many reasons symbolizes between Joseph, Jameson itself, go back to the 75th Ranger Regiment. Jameson was described as a drink of choice by amongst many Rangers for many years, mostly because its moments in history that touched the 75th Ranger Regiment was stood up in Ireland. For Jameson, it only made sense. It represents both the boys and war. And Joe has 11 deployments spread across the global war on terror. But truly where his power comes from is his later path. Due to life, war, pain, life's unruly ways, Joe's became a pillar of strength. His perspective is that of my favorite generation, a Block Party Ranger, and that of a chaplain. Only pain and agony can be built back together with such true resolve. This is the American way. The first time I rolled into Pula Karate, Joe asked if I was ready to train. He picked me up out of my chair like Mr. Potato Head, dropped me on the mat, and told me to start shrimping. Not sure if I had 2 limbs back then, but I didn't care. It was the first person that let me try. Without his courage and grit, I would not be where I am today. His leadership spread across the men and women of the school. His American values spread across his friends and loved ones. His commitments to those that he loves is second to none. We need more Joe. Joe, would you please pour the bottle of Jameson into the bowl? Devin Stigley, would you please grab the bottle of Ranger IPA? The youths have always been this lifeblood in the 75th Ranger Regiment. There's always been somebody young and tough enough, full of bravery, willing, found, acceptable to burden this weight. Devin has 8 years of service to his country, 2 deployments spread across the war on terror. Young man from out west serving his country. I had the pleasure of being one of Devin's leaders. I watched him grow from a young man to a freedom-fighting son of a gun. These are the difficult things that need to be done for the 75th Ranger Regiment. One dark night, Devin and I were walking through the desert. And we were ambushed by what we thought was a friendly checkpoint. Many of our men lay in the open as overwhelming firepower sprinkled down all over them. Well, I already knew the next radio call. Before I got it, Devin carried an extremely large weapon system back then. It was exactly what was needed at this point in the fight. That's with no choice but to send Devin right into harm's way. I showed him where to run and what to get ready for. I let the machine guns rip for cover fire as Devin ran across the nighttime battlefield. Bullets bounced at his feet. I led another man out there. And it was time in my career that I had to give such an order without leading it. He immediately sprang into action, sending 284s straight into the heart of our enemy. Gaining fire superiority, and we walked off into the moonlight that night. Devin acted very courageously on that night. Devin remains courageous. His leadership on his generation is rare and powerful. A man combat and baptized in combat. A man I call my friend. The transition from military to civilian life can be tricky. Devin acted as a resource for me and others going through this. I leaned into him for knowledge and experience in the same way he once did for me. Devin, would you please pour the IPA into the glass? Charles Bowen, would you please grab the bottle of gin? Charles will be pouring a bottle of gin. Charles and my relationship goes back many years before the night that he saved my life. I've always known him to be a good man, a good father. You know, sometimes medics are weird. It wasn't until deployment, long before the deployment I got injured on, that I saw what Charles was made of. Many, many years ago in a land far, far away, Charles and I were attached, working a casualty control point in the middle of the Civil War. We did not kill many bad guys that deployment. We acted as a hospital, as a beacon of hope. Charles was he was like the lead medic on the ground. We kept overtaking small buildings, and he would turn them into buildings that would perform as a hospital. He did not have much support outside his own brothers. The field surgical team that showed up on the ground, you know, the ones that like cut people up and stuff, they couldn't take the bloodshed, the tyranny. Humanity at its worst. They had to leave, so they left us there. Charles had all that to deal with, nothing but his brothers. This happened multiple times. Day by day, we would stay there, providing what aid we could. The sounds of missiles firing and buildings falling to the ground, 120s shooting all day and night. We handed back hundreds of dead children to their parents. And we handed back hundreds of children their dead parents. Tough wait. Charles and I have learned much of this. I'm not saying these things because he kept me alive on the battlefield for 2.5 hours. That has nothing to do with it. But 9 needle decompressions, the chest tube, trying to relieve the air from saving my life. He directly infused 9 whole blood transfusions, including 3 different teammates under fire. Many people ask me why they think I'm not affected by that night. I like to think I'm very affected, but if I've got that swing on somebody, I like to think it's because of the medic. Had a lot to do with it. Doc told me if I do this or if I do that, I was going to die, so just chill out. He came and saw me throughout the recovery in San Antonio. He and the boys snuck in the hospital one time on the pandemic and overthrew the conference room and snuck a bunch of beer up there. And we drank beer and watched a football game during the pandemic in the hospital. The ICU. He did it. Good on everybody. He followed through as my recovery moved to Walter Reed. As I moved back to Savannah. See, dying in war the way that I got hurt is heroic. But living through the war the way that I got hurt is complex. I know Doc will always be there for me. Whatever battlefield I find myself on in life, I know you'll be there, Doc. Doc, please pour this bottle of beer into the garage. Davis, please grab the bottle of Jack Daniels and come forward. Asia paid a great price for this nation. Her story is riddled with adversity, both from the battlefield, through the recovery, every day throughout, and the follow-through. Through my time in the hospital, on through my recovery time, at home, she was there, for better or for worse. Through thick, through thin. Her contributions to being an Army Ranger spouse, through the good times and the bad. She quickly went from being a pre-K teacher to changing my wound dressings, inspecting my infections, helping me get around. She had to be the pillar of strength. She rose to it in a moment. As time brought in more challenges, she became more passionate. Passionate about what not to do, that's for dang sure. She was very patient about peeling off the 20 milligrams of IV Dilaudid every day. This can have effects. She stood her warrior back up. She stood her ranger back up. She stood the father of her son back up. She stood her husband back up. She has a nickname, Rattlesnake. Not to be toyed with or taken lightly. Her passion and fire in hard times has pushed us through some things most families can't overcome. Her patience through adversity with those around her were gracious. It's not the life I would have chose for her. I tried to run her off. Thankful to God for how stubborn she is. Age will be turning the Jack bottle up in the grog bowl has representation, grit, hard work, American woman badassery. Not yet, not yet. The day that I exploded in a wadi in Afghanistan, she was on the way to school with Knox. Walking out the front door when she got the call that flipped her life upside down. She ran across the street, quickly told the neighbor to watch Knox, called the chaplain and my parents, took 2 shots of Jack Daniels. 2 shots of Jack Daniels. She hated whiskey, and she used to give me so much shit. Just me a lot of crap about drinking that whiskey. But the shots of whiskey tonight in this grog bowl represent an effort to push through an undying love that can't be amputated. Please. Chalices are going to get dipped in and brought over by the personnel working here tonight, and then each table will have a cup of grog, which is all of our contributions we drink and grow on. And do the next one.
You guys can be seated. Thank you so much, okay? Danny, if you make your way up here to the front.
Danny, you got me on the hold, brother? Never thought that I would retire and get so close to other dudes. I didn't think it was going to be this way. I thought there was going to be some space after the military, and it's like, no, bring it close, bro. Put his arm around you, and we'll share the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring an extra special part of the evening, and which is really kind of an unwarranted gift. Danny and myself are going to walk through the dark of August 16th. Just to let everyone know or catch everybody up on the way, if it wasn't for Danny doing what he did that night, you wouldn't be looking at some crazy guy with mom. A picture, cheers to my wife, keeping an eye on my son, and probably kicking my son's ass in the right direction, if I were to be guessing. But I'm going to overlay a small theater of time without jeopardizing anything that might be of harm to our men or women or different intelligence. I was the weapon squad leader for the strike force on the rotation that I got hurt. There were many things that needed tending as the stability of force pursuing a hostile effort. You know, there's a lot going on there. One of the many things is keeping 160th in the lead as it pertained to rodeoing operations. Danny and I had seen each other many times unknowingly as we passed through the very same building as we received in debriefs and con-ops, and really not known to one another other than to know that this guy's not always getting yelled at. And that's a pretty good thing in our industry. The darkness between 15 and 16 of August and all that follows was a very simple high-value target getting night. That's all it was. Then something unexplainable happened. And in that chaos, I lost 2 legs and an arm. And when I was hit, I was very conscious. I rolled over and lifted my arm, but the thing that came was my shoulder. I knew that wasn't right. I thought, oh boy, I rolled back over. Told my friend I was pretty banged up. I didn't say it so politely, but it was definitely the same vibe. That time I felt myself getting really warm, wet. I knew what happened here when I tried to stand up. And I couldn't move my legs, and I closed my eyes and I got ready because I knew it was coming. I knew all of this was very much a possibility every step I took on foreign land. So I closed my eyes and saw myself as a KIA bracelet. The most honorable position I could probably ever die. Field in action, taking a grenade into a hole. Warned by one of these young men you see tonight in the feats of war every year. Died a ranger death. No, I don't believe that's what he had intended. He leaned right back into me. As adversity continued, I was present. He pushed right back with the power of American gunpowder. He drew giant halos of 30 millimeters, raining it down, right around me and my friends, on my enemies, right in front of my eyes. Mother Mary giving me a ride. I saw a young soldier. I saw many young soldiers that night. Learn to fight with American spirit. Many tokens of leadership were earned that night on the battlefield. Many men did extraordinary things, to include 3 of them giving me 2 months of their own blood while we were still being shot at. After the first medevac bird could not make it, returned. They cleared that up a little, but the second had a fueling issue. The third one, I could feel his courage when he came into the valley. The valet from heaven. It was no longer a night now. Danny came in real close, put that baby right by us. Feel the heat. Not only did it light my soul back up, but it lit the enemy back up with hot American lead, baby. Myself, another casualty, 30 other soldiers. The other aircraft next to Danny started to get engaged with a machine gun. All the men ran into my helicopter. It was twice as heavy, still out of blood, and we were off. Off for the afterlife or back home with my buddies, and I didn't care which one. Thank you for burning that soul juice on my behalf, Danny, so that I may live the rest of my life free here on home soil. Your life forever changed that day. I'm forever grateful for you. The gratitude that you so rightly deserve for serving all of us that night. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for my friend, Danny Archer.
So, I'm Danny. I don't have a speech. I kind of got ambushed, and me with a microphone is traditionally it's a slightly dangerous thing. So interesting. So that night happens, and I'll tell you, like, from our standpoint, you know, it was just, you know, kind of where the term foobar came from. You know, like everything was good. You think you're gonna get back in time for breakfast before you go to bed because we're vampires and breakfast was a thing that you didn't. And then all of a sudden, you know, as we're start pimping for our no later than exfil time, we hear those words, troops in contact. And then, you know, like the plans have changed. At this point, we had already had 3 aircraft go forward and we're in a holding pattern, but they did not take enough gas in case other aircraft had to get, and they can maximize their aircraft load, if you will, right? So we pushed forward, we had the QRF with our aircraft, we pushed forward up to the FART, but I'm gonna use some terms, and if you're civilians and you don't get it, I'm sorry, I don't care. The guys that do get it, they're gonna be right there with me. We take some extra gas, 2,000 pounds exactly, because we have no idea how long we're gonna have to go. By this time the sun's coming up and we hear, hey, we're gonna need you guys to push forward and take the exfil, because we were gonna do it with 3 originally, they're now running out of gas. So we push forward with this extra gas and we land in this, we have to get over 2 mountain lines, and we get in between, over the first one, and we sit down and we land next to this wadi, and we're just sitting there like a tactical at 100% on the side of a mountain like this. And I look down at my computer and we do not have any power to get everybody out. Like, if it's more than that, it's awful. And I'm like, holy shit, we need to dump gas. So we literally start dumping gas, and right after we start, they're like, exfil, exfil, exfil. I'm like, it's gonna get sporty, boys. So I've got the medics on. We actually took him on with we had our medics as well, so we had 2 in the back. We go forward, and so I flew the MH-47 Golf, so it's big. It's the big one with the black probe off of it. But landing it in the desert is awful. Now, I'm okay with it, but like, you can't see anything. So it's complete and utter trust. So it's the one aircraft where it's a flight of 6, a crew of 6, and I have all my faith in the guys in the back. And once I start the approach and I get the decel in, and the dust comes, I'm listening to them, and I'm just flying a video game. So interesting note is all of my times doing these dust landings, what we don't have off the nose of the aircraft are guns. And I used to always think it would be super badass to fly in sideways so I could lead with guns, and we'll call it the Archer approach. That's super badass, right? Well, guess what? On this night, the target building is literally off my nose and there's no other option. And I gotta do a dust landing that way. And I'm like, so we take off, we're dumping gas, I'm talking to my co-pilot, I've got everybody in the back, and look, boys, we're gonna dump gas all the way to it. I'm like, the other guy in the controls, Casey, I'm like, you started the flare. Once you start this up, I'm gonna cut the gas, come on the controls, slide it and engine right, and I'm like, guns, I need you to start hammering that building. And they're like, hell yeah. So I'm like, I'm gonna try to get it as close as I can. And so we come across over this ridge line, and by this it's totally daylight. My goggles up, and black helicopters and daylight over like villages is not great. Because guess who the boogeyman to them is? It's us. We take the boogeyman in and everybody wants to shoot at us. I'm like, shit. Like, whatever. So, you know what? Here we go. So we come off this ridge line, and I can literally see the gunfire. The dirts and just all this. I'm like, all right, this is going to be super badass. And lo and behold, the guy on the left gun with the M134, which shoots 3,000 rounds a minute, is brand new and it's its first rotation. Guys, welcome to getting some, right? And so we literally do it just like that. Riding down, we're probably 30 or 40 feet off the ground, shaking on the controls. Sex Panther it into place, guns open up. Yeah, that's literally what I ended up calling it, was Sex Panther. It sounds a little better than the Archer approach. But you never go full retard. So anyways, so I come in sideways, the dust takes us over, I'm now on the controls sideways, doing this weird ninja stuff, flare it, put it on the ground, meanwhile the guns are just peppering the shit out of this building. But then guess what? Left gun gets jammed. Now, we've got to start cycling, the right gun shuts down, guys are cycling through the window to start shooting up, and now Rangers are coming up, but they got to get the casualties on, and we sit there. Now, at this point, I can't see anything. I'm looking at this building, out my left door, and I'm like, dude, I should really start shooting. That'd be totally badass. I should shoot. And then I have this vision of like, I'm gonna have my 9mm out or something, I'm gonna start shooting, and I'm gonna say, F ready, forward ready. I'm like, oh, shit. And I'm gonna drop my 9mm out. Or I'm gonna throw it on my dashboard, and I'm gonna shoot the freaking windshield out. So I'm like, we're just gonna sit here and hope what we got. It takes 2 minutes and 30 seconds finally before we get half ready, forward ready. And that's the guys in the back, and we're buttoned up and we're ready to go. And if anybody's ever sat that close to a bad guy, like House, with all that gunfire and all the things that have to go on, that is an eternity. Try to hold your breath for 2 hours, or 2 minutes, It's actually 2 minutes and 20 some odd seconds, but it's forever. But everybody was shooting, so nobody was counting in the back. And meanwhile, I don't know that the other guys are running onto our aircraft. So by the time we get aft ready, forward ready, we come out. And I told Casey, look, we're going 100%. We're going to go max power. We're going to get this thing. We're not going to be heavy. We got to get it out of the dust. We got to get over these houses off the front of us, and then we got to get into forward flight. And we start to pull in it, and man, she starts to whine. Well, you know, oh shit. We get it to 100%, and we slowly start to climb and get out of the dust, and then kind of good. We're not too bad. This is okay. We get out of the dust, and then he starts to crank bait towards this house, and I know I'm going to get a little long because I'm going to replay this in my head. That's literally what's happening. So if this goes way too long, I apologize. My wife's with me. That's too long. That's too long. So I think everything's good, right? So we start taking off and we start going forward. We get to speed. I can see the other guys off the horizon going from left to right. I pass the controls off so I can do some mission planning stuff in the aircraft, and the aircraft starts to go like this. I'm like, oh shit. So we're at 83 knots. I'm like, hey, let me have the controls, release the parking brake. Because now I think, like, I don't know what's happening. So the guys in the back are checking the systems. Everything looks good. Looking at the systems up front, everything looks good. I'm like, I don't know. I call up, I'm like, hey man, we're getting a crazy vibe. And the other aircraft's like, do you want to try to put it down? I'm like, no, we've already pissed off this whole valley. So I'm flying, we're good. So the guys are trying to get the count up because of the casualties, and we got extra bodies, and we got another dog, and all this chaos in the back. And we start heading towards the mountains that we got to get over. So I know I'm heavy, so I'm just flying really low and trying to pick up some ground lift, you know, because the aircraft and it's aerodynamic shit, you don't care about it. So anyways, but I start climbing this spur off this mountain, and the sun is right on the top, and it's just a total calamity. I'm like, this is, you know, I'm cussing it, you know. And I'm riding it, and I can feel that I have a lot of power in it. And we get to probably almost to the top of this ridge line, and they go, sir, we're 34 plus 2. Understand, we were supposed to get 20 to 21 tops. And I'm given all the power to those guys. Anything above that was a buffer. And so what I've just realized as we are getting ready to crest this mountain is I don't have the ability to do a landing to a hover and come down. And we get over this ridge line, and it is nothing but crag rock. And dead crunchy, like, you know, there's literally no place to land. And I have to do a roll-on landing. And I'm like, this is not good. And I look up, and the next ACP, or the air control point, is on a saddle on the next mountain line, and it's 10,500 feet. I'm at about 9,600. And I start pulling in power, and she's really struggling. And by this time, the aircraft is contorting so much that the guys in the back thought it was going to rip in half. And the probe is bouncing about 1.5 feet. And the only way that I can describe it is like being in a rocking chair and somebody coming behind you and being an asshole and shaking. That's what it was like right then. And I had this moment where I remember looking down as I'm bouncing around and we're at 10,050 feet. And we're not going to make it. And the terrain is channelizing, and I only have like maybe another second where I'm like, we can continue this direction. This is something that we struggled with. And we can die as heroes, or I can try to make this left-hand turn and see what happens. And so, sorry. Emotions and shit are fucking bullshit. So, let me go back, this kind of funny guy, whatever. So, now I'm back in the aircraft, and I got one shit, right? Either we're gonna crash, or I'm gonna make this left-hand turn. And if I put it at too much of an angle, this is now I'm gonna talk aerodynamic stuff, we're gonna start to descend, and because of the altitudes and whatnot, I don't have enough power to slow it, which means we're gonna crash. So it's a total finesse move. Now everybody in the back is like, dude, we're awesome, we got out. I think, that's what I think you're thinking. But, I mean, I know you're working your ass off. Blood, stuff, give me a rag. So, and meanwhile, up front, we're like, and everybody else, all the other crew members, they don't know what I'm thinking because I'm not talking. This is all in my head, and I have about a fraction of a second, and I go, coming left. Now it's like I'm gonna come off of this cliff, and I put this angle, you know, sorry, I'm literally flying the aircraft. super visual guy. And so I literally put it into it so that I'm gonna try to get the rotor tips as close to the thing as possible. But I know, like, remember that, one of the docs in the back was trying to give me the information for the 9 line. I'm like, dude, not now. And so I'm turning, and I'm watching the rotor tips. I'm like, oh, holy shit, we made it. And I'm like, yeah, that's not it. Whew, that was problem 1. There were probably 9 things that said we should have died that night. We're probably on like number 3. Now I'm here and I'm like, dude, you gotta find me another way. So Jennifer, I'm working with some company. It's like, I'll say HIPAA, whatever. Like, she's heard this story a bunch. HIPAA. I feel so exposed up here. I told you to be in the microphone. God, this is awesome. Man. So, all right, I know. I'll wrap it up. I'm good. So now we're going in a direction that is off the map. I have no idea where we're going. And oh, by the way, there's at least 5 miles west of the place that we're trying to land that was bidden like a no-fly area because everybody shoots at us. And it's now daytime. The aircraft over top were talking about, like, oh, they know you're coming, helicopter ambushes everywhere, like, oh, this is going to be awful. You're like, this is going to be fine. It's going to be fine. Because I can't go fast. I'm flying at about 100 to 150 feet. We wiggle our way through, jump off of this ridge line, and I get down as low as I can. And it's like looking at all you guys, like, with guns. And we're just flying, and I can't juke on them because they're working on this jackass. And I'm like, why did you have to get blowed up? Like, I could really go super sweet now, but now I just got to, like, pooter wrong. And I'm like, so I'm flying it right at the edge of the bump, right here, which I eventually got to 90 knots. And the whole time, I'm just waiting for the aircraft to explode. And as I'm looking at this, like, it's called a FOB, but forward observation base, whatever, like, operating base, it's out off the horizon. I just start to see it. And this whole time, I've already kind of mentally written this off. I'm going to fly it to the end and see what happens, right? That's what you do. But now, I can see it. That's where we're going. This might work out. Meanwhile, I'm just like, oh. The only way that you know you're getting shot at in the daytime is when they're hitting you. That's what's super awesome. So you're just like completely oblivious. But I can't move fast. I can't do anything. And the aircraft that ended up coming with us is like, hey man, can you guys go any faster? And I'm like, sorry dude, I'm gonna have to just grin and bear it. And so it's coming up, and all of a sudden I'm like, holy crap, like, I gotta worry about landing this thing. But I still don't have power to do like a normal landing. So I gotta do like what we call a roll-on landing. So I have the brakes released, and I come in and do this wheelie landing, and then aerodynamic brake it, and then slow it down. But I know that they're working on him, so I do this like really quick thing in my head, and going into this little place that had a little downslope and an upslope. So I'm just like, that little bit of angle is probably enough that I can kind of do. It's pretty aggressive, but I'm gonna do kind of a baby controlled crash, aerodynamic braking right there at the gate. Those comes down, swivel, done. And so I tell everybody in the back what we're doing. They're like, all right. Because I'm like, how bad can it get? And so I do that exactly. We come in, nose up, pick up the shutter as close as I can, flare kind of hard, ease off into it, start the approach, brakes are released, shutter, nose, whoop, whoop, brakes, ramp. And then I look at my co-pilot, go up, and I go, hey, we're going up private up front. Pardon my French, and I go, what the fuck just happened? Sorry, because I know there's some kids. That's what happened. And because I'm like, dude. And so literally they did a call for everybody that possibly had blood for this guy. We got everybody off. We shut down, and I'm like, I gotta, because the other aircraft's like, hey, get gas, we'll load up the QR up, we'll get back to the house. I'm like, absolutely not. Like, I appreciate your like 14 people that you took off, and I get everybody. I'm like, I need to look at that and see what's wrong with this aircraft. And I get out and we shut down, man, I'm telling you, like my hands are a little shaky, you know, because I'm like looking and walking around expecting like this like mayhem and shatters of this and that and whatnot. And before we climbed out, I did the calculation on the computer. And we were supposed to have 20, and we ended up with 34 guys and 2 dogs. And at that altitude and the temperature, it said 90 available, 106 required. So that's 16% different in capability and possibility, which means we should have crashed and we should have died. We should have drooped. We should have never mathematically been able to do it. And we didn't even fucking overtorque. Pardon my French. Like, so, it's whatever. So anyways, that's the first time I've ever said that story to an entire room of like, Harley Davidson right there. I saw your face. Anyways, that's my speech, and I'm sticking to it.
Give another round of applause for Danny there. Take a lot of guys' lives in this window now.
All right, guys, listen. We're going to give you an opportunity to get back up those bars. I know you want to take it. We're going to give you about 10 minutes. Okay, take a 10-minute intermission. We're going to grab some drinks. Check out the auction items. If you hadn't seen the painting, there's an amazing painting that is Ryan's. That's his kid. That's his kid. And Millie, my amazing sister, she painted that thing. Isn't that amazing? It's crazy. You guys check that out. Check out the auction items. Please don't leave anything up there unbid. All the money that we raise in that will be going back to special kids towards specifically the Rooster Project, so we can continue to bring soldiers like Ryan and other guys who need that mission. All right, so you guys check it out. Thank you so much. Let's give these guys a hand one more time before we go. All right, 10-minute break, and then we're going to get back going. Ryan has a speech and a video for you guys. That's pretty amazing. Guys, if you will have a seat and quiet down, we are going to get the video. If Mr. Barker, if you don't mind, we're going to get that video going. You guys are going to really enjoy this. It's an amazing video. I get to do this again. I'm very excited.
Clean up close to me for a little while. Second dude tonight. No, I'm planning on opening. Okay. Now it's time to talk about what this evening symbolizes. Most of us are honorable dudes and babes, and we bring revel and celebration for each of our seasons. Tonight's speech is not a celebration. Tonight's acknowledgement of a population of veterans who need help. Give awareness to brothers and sisters, an avenue for anybody who really is having a problem. When the road ahead ends the majority of time, there's a sign. Something to see pretty easy with reflective tape on it saying, don't go here. In life, it's nice to have these signs. When I come home and Rattlesnake is fuming at the ears and Knox is like hiding under the kitchen table with Ziggy, like sheltering him, I take that as a sign. Signs are everywhere. Signs help us navigate even the most tricky situations. I wish there were more signs to help us navigate suicide. A suicidal person feels he or she has exhausted any purpose or option, that life has no purpose, no future. The obsessive belief that nothing will ever change for the best. This leaves him feeling helpless with such conviction. Death is the only way out. Such person is a victim of depression, tortured with the feeling of unworthy failure, deep guilt, and the need to be punished. I believe I remember those feelings growing up. Those feelings signified that we did something wrong. We're at a chapter in life where that's not always the case. My time with suicide was brief, but rich. The first time I thought about killing myself was more of the samurai asking for his katana, or the Viking walking off into the woods. I just wanted to die already. Better that way. And 4 months in, when I started to come back alive, I got a back infection. Coli in my spine, had to go face down for 90 days. And I thought that wouldn't be too bad, and 3 hours in, I was like, well, this is gonna suck. And I looked out the window and I saw a parking garage. And I stared at that parking garage all day long, the parking garage, and I prayed that I would die every night, and I prayed that they would give me a power wheelchair so I could take myself to that parking garage and throw myself over the side. It was better that way. I'm done doing this to my family. I was done doing it to myself. I had convinced myself. At the end of my time in the hospital, I used to go up there and have coffee in the morning. Even after I got out of the hospital, I went up there, would drive up there, on the post, watch the sun come up, enjoy my coffee. It became a wonderful place to me. That very place I stared at, face down, for 3 months. We all possess this power. And when that day finally came and I got my wheelchair, I was off to the races. Didn't even think about it. Come through your despair to the joy and the fullness of life that's intended for you this way. You can use the suffering and your experience in life, you can use it to make you more you. Your vision, you know the solution for your problem. There is hope. You know he longs to bear your burdens. You'll be pleased when you finally take them to him. You are the creator of your universe here right now. For you vets that specialize in this and bringing order out of chaos, turning the shattered pieces of your life into something of beauty, solving a problem within our capabilities, you must shield up in hard times. You must. There's simply no other way to survive. Put your shield up and stop at what you don't want. Begin to feed the right animal.
If you're worried that your shield isn't strong enough to stop and which you don't, then we're onto something. This is where evil thrives. A man's ungodly nature is to be worried. Reinforce your confidence with your physicalness and your mentality. Reinforce your family with God and country. That's the greatest thing you can give them. Gratitude is the great antidote to depression and suicide. Find gratitude, and there's simply no other room for the two. There are many places that suicide hides. A lot like the Taliban, this problem does not fight honorably. Hides sometimes, goes dormant inside of us, hides in a cave somewhere inside of you. Start to put things in your way, small IEDs, pushing you into an area that it wants. Fight in these times. We know doctrine on this. We know how and what the enemy wants us to do. And we possess the overwhelming firepower. We wrote the book on this. Direct fire over there, direct fire over there, closer direct fire over there. Get your stuff. We're being bracketed. Stay vigilant with your enemies and stay vigilant with yourselves. One of the many enemies that we will face is addiction. It may very well be the carriage that carries our demons. Chemical dependency is a part of us. It resembles our failures as humanity. When we talk a whole person, we talk about the spiritual, the physical, the emotional, social. Chemical dependency begins from a person just looking for relief. Hurts too bad to sit down for one more second. Most chemical dependencies begin from the necessary use of prescription and turn into a controlling addiction. If you're me, it began by extending yourself. I wanted to be out there playing baseball with my kid before it was time. I would reach for these things and extend myself to my weakness. Regardless of your reasons for addiction, there's no stopping it. Who you are does not want to yield under a substance, when they want to be controlled by a chemical. Neither does Uncle Sam, neither does God. Not the intention. We're willingly putting this into our body. We are in full control sometimes, and we're the only ones stopping that from happening. No number of drugs and alcohol can resolve our issues, nor can they help us face our trials. Chemical dependency damages our daily lives and relationships with others, but also drowns us away, depending on ourselves, our country, our family, our God. The hardest part of this entire process was stripping opioids from the everyday. Laying in bed, strapped to a pole, surgeries, doctors, timelines, pandemic. So you can survive with a certain amount of pain medication, but you will never be alive on them. No, I tried every way around it. Your body will create too much cortisol. You won't be able to heal. Take enough of them for your body to heal and deal with the addiction. This crazy Cajun chaplain came into my room one day and asked what I wanted out of life. And I told him I wanted to be a good husband, a good father. He said, "What's in the way of you doing that in the near future?" I said, "Well, I got to get off IV pain medication." So the fight began to go home, to lay on my own couch next to my own wife, my own son. Coming off 20 milligrams of Dilaudid can get weird. I'll never forget that man, or those moments of despair. As the agonizing abuse wore off through my body, it felt kind of like that man breaking free of chains, or like Andy Dufresne in Shawshank Redemption crawled through like a mile of poop to be free. You remember that? It's a lot like that. The agonizing part is you're constantly trying to turn inside out. Each night was full of my body rejecting everything. The sweat felt like mace.
I laid there with a small ketamine drip in my body so my body wouldn't go into shock. Kept trying to do it. Without it, it just wouldn't work. In the drug abuse world, they call getting high on heroin riding the dragon. Passed around. That's the closest thing I could relate to it. I had to do it twice. I didn't want to do it the second time, but the E. coli infection in my back had other plans. So I termed this portion of the recovery slaying the dragon. The demons that we create, knowingly or unknowingly, are the very demons that you will have to cast out in your strength. Take that to the bank. Not every moment of that fight is going to feel like the American fire superiority that you're used to. There will be moments of it that are abusive, hateful, awful, and in the end, you will be grateful you found that strength. Sometimes the most fight you can do is just be there. Sometimes there's no other way than to take the hard way. As a ranger and a warrior and a soldier and a civilian, I know what it is to take on a great challenge. Same measure as the American dream. Put in the hard work. You get the picket fence, that earned sense of peace. This is undoubtedly going to cause more stress for a greater implant. We design things that way for a reason. We can win our fight on opioids, regardless of the danger on how we got there. Remember that. I've been and came back, and so can you. Sacrifice as kind of the design that it led into. What is sacrifice? We call, we all sacrifice things. We don't know what we're going to sacrifice. A lot like your freedom from chemical dependency. I knew all the sacrifices that you openly see here on me tonight were very much a possibility, but I did not wake up one day working for Uncle Sam thinking I would be insanely addicted to a drug. I had no idea. I'd be sacrificing sorts of agonies for the country, but didn't know they'd be like that. But I'd do it 100 times over again. I'm obviously the man for the job. Never once did I worry about it though. We all donate to some motion, some direction, some cause, something greater than all of us. In the veteran world, we sacrifice our time and our livelihood for the nature of our country. All of us sacrifice something. Some of us sacrifices are a bit more visually apparent than the others. Many of our sacrifices live on with us every day. Some of our sacrifices will affect those around us. At the end of this service, at the end of your time, you're to turn all your equipment in. Rucksacks, combat clothes, all your army equipment. So that it can be refit, given to the next soldier. Everything is going to be turned back in, accounted for, or you're paying for it. I don't want to get going on that. But the thing that you cannot turn in are the stresses that remain. They're there with you forever, long after you leave that central interesting facility. It would be nice if you could take your entire career of stress and pain and just swap it out. All of us have undoubtedly been affected by the experience in which we volunteered for. Take great ownership in this stress. And if it feels like a disability, then it's an opportunity to empower and make strength of that vulnerability. I promise you can do more broken with your experiences than you ever could in your youth. Let us not go down to the road to associate ourselves with some disorder that we're trying to turn. Let us spend more time talking about how we associate ourselves with the growth beyond that. Use our post-traumatic stress in the face of our enemy. Whether it be on a battlefield 2,000 miles away or on our fucking couch. In our own mind. Again, make what you think is shattered shine. Sacrifice is the only thing you have to embolize such a regal and salute perfection. I believe sacrifices to our country that each of us have given and has taken, they'll never be forgotten. They'll always be revered. But find your sacrifices with family, God, country. Closing, I'll leave you with this. Suicide has had a part in humanity's existence. It's not a problem that we know well. It's not one that shows from science or nature. 16 of our men and women tire every day. Don't let this just symbolize their efforts. Don't just memorialize. Let this event here tonight allow all of us to recognize and bring awareness to our experiences. Don't forget that addiction hides in the many cracks along the sidewalk of life. Hold yourself up with God and country, and there's no crack that you can fall in. Remember, our sacrifices mean something. Something to the very nature in which we carry ourselves. Don't be timid around your sacrifices. Chances are they're screaming for your attention. You're all the most honorable women and men that I know. You'll find a collection around the room tonight, around this organization, a standard of honor, if you will. I invite you guys to meet one another, get to know one another. Small American women, honorable American women. I would like to personally thank all of you. Could not have done this without one of you. Tonight I want you to know, mothers, wives, aunts, sisters, cousins, that you are loved. Great amount of gratitude for the American woman in today's world. I've seen her strength firsthand. The effort and the reason that you are all here to give to those that they may carry when we fall weak. Build it so in our absence our strength will shine with our very way of life. Special thanks to the Rooster Project, the Karate, special kids, taking me in, giving me a place to grow. Most of all, my wife. I could not have done this without you. I thank God every night after I ask Him to give me the patience to deal with you. Love you very much, babe. And God bless this country. God bless all of you guys and your contributions tonight. Each one of you have safety at home.
All right, guys, so I know some of you guys are still working your dinner, some of you hadn't even started yet. You can go ahead and eat your dinner, but take about a 30-minute break. Eat your dinner, enjoy, after your dinner we'll have some amazing dessert. Bid on those auction items, make sure you come introduce yourself to any of the amazing soldiers that you've seen up front today that had the taken their time to talk to us. Again, hope you guys are having a lot of fun, and hope you enjoy dinner. Thank you so much. You guys will see in a minute. I'm gonna get Parker. He's gonna. Some of the guys they told me to. Where's Chappie? Chappie. He said you got to do this. So I said okay, whatever you say, Chappie. All right. So if you guys don't know who Chappie is, Chappie's the guy who was kicking Ryan out the chair in the video that you were all going crazy over. Chappie trained Ryan and got him his yellow belt in Krav Maga. And that was one of his achievements when he earned his black belt. I had the honor, while you guys are eating, I might as well tell them my story. I had the honor of, I hired Chappie. We took a class. He did one of our classes we offered on base, and he was just beating everybody to death. It was awesome. I mean, you guys see, he looks like a gorilla up there. He was beating everybody to death, though, and And he says that I wouldn't leave him alone. And so he told me some crazy stories that I can't tell you right now, but it immediately interested me, and I was like, man, I want to know this guy a little bit more. So we started talking more and more, and he did an internship at my business, and then ended up hiring me. Now he manages my schools, all my business. It's pretty cool. So those of you, if you're in here and you have a business, I highly encourage you to hire a veteran that's like Mr. Bouchard. Okay, everybody give him a hand as well. So while you guys are eating, this is, please take the time to grab a drink, bid on an auction item, and to help support the Rooster Project, you can scan the QR code and you can donate directly to the Rooster Project. Again, this money that we are raising tonight will only be used for soldiers specifically. Okay, thank you guys. Enjoy dinner. All right, guys, we're going to get started. Ryan, guys, you guys heard Ryan's amazing story. I remember the first day, family told me about Ryan, and I said, okay, well, let's go, get him up here. And then, just like he said, Chappie threw him on the mat, and we never looked back, and we've been beating on him ever since. And it blows my mind. The videos you sent me the first time he walked just blew my mind. You guys don't know, he can stand up and walk, right? It's amazing. It's mind blowing, right? And before we couldn't even get in the chair. Now we're getting in the chair and beating this guy up, man. I just wanted to say you are amazing, all right? And I love you, brother.
So sometimes you have no clue what a blessing it is when some people walk into your life. Ryan, a couple years ago when he walked in, we dragged his beanbag ass out of the chair. We hung him up like a piñata for a little while. We had a great time with him, but his spirit itself kind of reinvigorated a whole side of me that I thought I'd long died. What was it, almost a year ago now, on Father's Day, we spent a whole day together. It started off as a bad day, worked out to be a really good day by the end of it. And if you guys don't know, he's about to be a mile away from my house in the same neighborhood. So there's a lot of things that are going to go wrong in that neighborhood here pretty soon. But he's been an absolute blessing in my life, kind of re-sparked everything. That black belt test kind of just took it over the top for me. And he is truly part of my family along with Asia and Knox. I cannot thank enough that you guys are part of our life now. So.
And it's so heavy, I had to use trailer anchors for that. We're going to be able to hang it up. I don't know what, I better tell you to reinforce that wall.
There was a road sign about a half mile outside of Ronda. It said like half a lake for Ronda underneath it. These are abandoned it, so I drug it home.
Chappie, do you mind opening this for Ryan, please?
No, I like you a lot. You can come closer. Everyone else does. My man. So we got a split moment here to explain kind of how this whole process takes place. Really, I show up and kind of plan a couple of vlogs at night or something that's gonna be hard and I'm gonna grind through. And Millie sets up the entire rest of the night. So nothing you see, none of these charities, none of these contributions, none of this effort is actually gonna reach its end point without humans like Millie along the way. And I think we all kind of feel people like that, kind of the sponsors of the charity, a big honor. And we've kind of got you something. As the men in your life, we've got you something.
The other men in your life, I guess, they've got you something.
That's right. No, don't do that. Don't do that. That's right. But this is a token of our appreciation for your sacrifices each and every day, for what you do. It's not an easy task. We're very thankful for you. You're welcome.
You guys have heard us say Special Kicks. Special Kicks is our nonprofit, and a part of the nonprofit is the Rooster Project. So Millie is the executive director of our nonprofit, so she keeps the wheels moving. So how's the dessert? Is it good? You know what I always think when I come to these? I'm like, man, I hope somebody doesn't show up so I can eat the dessert next to me. That's what I think about. I don't know. All right, guys. So we have about 14 minutes, 15 minutes before the silent auction ends. So you can hang out, you can go bid. I will say auction will be closing in a minute, then I'll say close, and we'll flip them over, and they can't bid anymore. So now is the time to go raise all the bids if you're the last minute person. I know there's a lot of those in here. At the last minute, you're waiting for it. I can get it if I wait for the last second. Now is the time. Go bid. You got 15 minutes. Thank you guys for an amazing night. We've had a lot of fun. You guys can hang out, and I'll be closing this out before you know it. Thanks, guys. All right, guys. Hope everybody's had fun tonight. Listen, before we go, last thing I want to talk about. All right, number one, let's give everybody a hand. Let's put in hard work and such an amazing event. Thank you guys for everyone who's doing it tonight, and we really enjoyed having you right here. I want to talk about the event before we leave. If you had fun at this event, I want to tell you about another event we have coming up December 9th that is specifically for Special Kicks. You'll get to meet some amazing kids like you see hanging out right here tonight. And I'll tell you about that event. It's a little bit more wild. It's a free open bar all night long. And we do stuff like crazy stuff. Like we'll be giving free tattoos the entire night. Let's see, what else? We give away like 200 guns. Anybody likes guns? You can see Millie. Okay, so thank you guys so much for who donated. Please be sure to close out your items before you leave. You can hang out, talk to your friends and family. Again, thank you so much for the amazing event, guys. Bye-bye.